Pain is the greatest teacher you'll ever meet, but most people run from it instead of learning from it. They bury it, numb it, or distract themselves, hoping it will disappear, but all that does is make it grow stronger in the dark. What they don't realize is that pain holds the exact fuel they need to transform their life. The same fire that burns you can be the fire that forges you if you stop looking outward for rescue and start looking inward for strength. When you focus on yourself, not in a selfish way, but in a deeply committed, intentional way, you stop wasting energy on what you can't control and start building the only thing you can truly master, you. Every wound, every disappointment, every setback becomes raw material for your growth. It's not about avoiding the hurt, it's about channeling it into something that makes you unstoppable. Pain is not your enemy, it's your greatest teacher, your most honest mirror, and the raw energy that can ignite a complete transformation in your life if you stop running from it. Most people are conditioned to avoid pain at all costs. They numb it, distract themselves from it, or bury it under layers of excuses and temporary pleasures. But the truth is, the more you resist pain, the more power you give it over you. Pain doesn't go away just because you ignore it. It festers, it grows, and eventually, it becomes the silent force shaping your life without you even realizing it. When you decide to stop resisting it, when you choose to turn and face it head on, you strip away its control and claim the energy it has been holding hostage. Every struggle you face, every heartbreak, every disappointment, every loss has shaped a part of you. But the real transformation happens when you stop seeing those experiences as curses and start seeing them as raw material. Pain has the power to strip away the noise and the illusions you've been living in. It forces you to confront the truth of who you are and what you're capable of. And that moment when you lean into the discomfort instead of retreating is the moment you stop being a victim of your circumstances and start becoming the architect of your future. Think about it. Some of the most successful, fulfilled, and powerful people in history didn't rise in spite of the pain. They rose because of it. They used it as fuel. They didn't let it make them bitter. They let it make them better. Pain has a way of sharpening your focus, awakening a hunger inside you that comfort never could. Comfort breeds complacency. Pain breeds drive. It gives you urgency, clarity, and a reason to push beyond the limits you thought you had. But you only unlock that power when you stop resisting and start embracing it. Resisting pain is like trying to hold back a wave with your hands. It will eventually crash through and knock you off your feet. But if you learn how to ride that wave, if you let it carry you instead of fight against it, you discover strength, balance, and momentum you never knew you had. This doesn't mean you have to enjoy pain or seek it out. It means you stop making it the enemy. You stop telling yourself that something is wrong just because you're uncomfortable. Growth is uncomfortable. Change is uncomfortable. But discomfort is where your evolution happens. You will never unlock your highest self by hiding in the safe zone. When you shift your relationship with pain, you start to see it for what it really is. A signal, a guide, a wake-up call. Pain is your body, mind, or spirit telling you something needs to change. It's an invitation to go deeper, to shed the habits, beliefs, and patterns that are no longer serving you. Most people waste this opportunity by numbing themselves with distractions, addictions, or the opinions of others. They waste years running from a truth that could have set them free if they'd faced it sooner. But when you choose to meet pain with courage instead of avoidance, you turn it into momentum. The energy you spend avoiding pain is the same energy that could be fueling your transformation. Imagine redirecting all that time, focus, and emotional energy into building yourself stronger, wiser, and more capable. Instead of seeing pain as a punishment, see it as the training ground for your potential. Every time you lean into it, you build emotional muscle. You expand your capacity to handle life's challenges. You develop a resilience that nothing can break. And that resilience doesn't just help you survive. It helps you thrive in any circumstance. When you stop resisting pain, you start to own it. You stop letting it define you, and instead, you define what it will mean for your life. Will it be the reason you shrink back, or will it be the reason you rise? Pain doesn't care, it will give you the energy either way. The choice is yours. You can let it destroy you, or you can let it build you into something unstoppable. You can let it close you off from life, or you can let it crack you wide open to possibilities you never imagined. And in that choice lies your power when you spend all your energy trying to control or change other people. You set yourself up for endless frustration, resentment, and exhaustion. You can't force someone to see what they're not ready to see. You can't make them act differently if they're not willing. And you can't expect them to value something they don't care about. Yet so many people waste their lives trying to drag others toward growth, healing, or change, only to find themselves burned out and disappointed. The truth is, the more you focus on fixing them, the more you avoid the real work that needs to be done, fixing yourself. And that's the only part of the equation you actually have control over. Every time you make someone else's choices your responsibility, you're giving away your own power. You're shifting the focus from where it belongs, on your own growth, your own decisions, your own actions, to a place you can't influence. And when the results don't change, you feel powerless because you've invested in something you can't control. That's why the first step toward real freedom is to let go of the illusion that you can manage someone else's transformation. Their path is theirs, and yours is yours. The moment you redirect that energy toward yourself, you start to see what's been in your control all along. Focusing on yourself is not selfish. It's the most effective way to create real change, both in your life and in the lives of those around you. When you raise your own standards, when you build your own strength, when you start living by example, people notice. They may not follow right away, and some may never follow at all, but your energy, your boundaries, and your growth will naturally influence the environment around you. You don't inspire change by preaching to people or pushing them. You inspire change by embodying it. And when you become living proof of what's possible, you give others something they can feel. Not just something they can hear. The reason focusing on yourself feels hard for so many is because it forces you to face truths you've been avoiding. It's easy to point the finger at someone else and say they need to change. It's harder to turn that mirror toward yourself and ask, where am I falling short? What am I tolerating? What am I avoiding? That's the kind of honesty that requires courage. But it's also the kind of honesty that unlocks transformation. The more you take ownership of your role in your own life, the less time you waste waiting for someone else to act differently before you can be happy, successful, or at peace. It's not your job to manage someone else's emotions, solve their problems, or carry their responsibilities. You can support, you can guide, you can encourage. But the moment you make their growth your mission, you rob both of you of the opportunity to take full ownership of your own lives. Because here's the truth. When you're consumed with fixing them, you're neglecting the work you need to do on yourself. And when you neglect that work, you stay stuck in the same patterns, repeating the same frustrations, wondering why nothing is changing. Your energy is a limited resource. You can either spend it obsessing over people who refuse to change, or you can pour it into building yourself into the person you're capable of becoming. Every ounce of energy you invest in developing your mindset, building your skills, and raising your emotional resilience compounds over time. That investment pays off in ways that trying to change someone else never will. Because when you grow, your whole life shifts. You attract different opportunities, different relationships, and different outcomes, not because you manipulated someone else into changing, but because you became someone who naturally draws those things. And this doesn't mean you stop caring about people or abandon them. It means you stop attaching your well-being to their choices. It means you stop making your peace dependent on whether or not they follow the path you think they should take. It means you give them the freedom to live their lives, even if it means making mistakes, and you give yourself the freedom to live yours without waiting for their permission. That's not coldness, it's strength. It's understanding that love and control cannot exist together, and the more you try to control someone, the more you strangle the possibility of genuine connection. When you release the need to fix others, you release a massive weight off your shoulders. You stop waking up every day feeling responsible for their happiness or their decisions. You stop living in a constant cycle of hope and disappointment. Instead, you wake up with clarity because your mission is simple: become the best version of yourself. You start to notice that the more you focus on growing your own life, the less power other people's choices have over you. You begin to operate from a place of peace instead of frustration, strength instead of desperation, and purpose instead of distraction. Pain is one of life's greatest teachers. But most people run from it, hide from it, or numb themselves so they don't have to feel it. The problem is, when you avoid pain, you also avoid the growth it's trying to push you toward. Pain shows up for a reason. It's a signal, a message that something needs to change. It might be the pain of failure, the pain of rejection, the pain of loss, or the pain of being stuck in the same place year after year. Whatever it is, pain is not there to punish you. It's there to wake you up. It's there to show you where you've been settling, where you've been holding back, and where you've been living below your potential. But here's the key: you can't just feel it and stop there. You have to use it. When you choose to see pain as fuel, everything changes. That heartbreak you went through, it can make you stronger if you decide to build resilience instead of resentment. That business that failed, it can become the foundation for your next success if you decide to take the lessons and apply them with even more commitment. That betrayal you experienced, it can teach you to set higher standards for the people you allow into your life, making your circle more powerful and supportive than ever. The truth is, pain either breaks you or builds you, and that choice is yours. You can let it crush you, or you can let it carve you into someone more capable, more disciplined, and more determined than before. Most people think power comes from comfort, from having everything go smoothly, from avoiding struggle. But the deepest power you will ever feel comes from walking through fire and realizing you're still standing. It comes from the moments when you thought you couldn't handle one more thing, yet you did. It comes from the situations where you felt broken, but you kept moving anyway. That's when you tap into a version of yourself you didn't know existed. That's when you discover that the limits you thought were real were only illusions. And once you've crossed through that pain, you walk differently, you carry yourself differently, you no longer question if you can handle life. You know you can. The shift happens when you stop asking why me and start asking what now, why me. Keeps you stuck in victim mode, replaying the same story over and over, waiting for life to apologize. What now moves you into action. It takes the energy that pain creates and channels it into momentum. That's how you turn pain into power, by using it as the driving force behind your next move, not the reason you stay still. Every painful experience has the potential to either chain you to the past or launch you into the future. It depends on whether you see it as an ending or a beginning. And here's something most people don't realize: your pain is not just about you. When you turn your pain into power, you become a living example for others. People see your scars, your resilience, your strength, and they realize they can overcome too. That's why some of the most inspiring people you've ever met aren't the ones who had it easy. They're the ones who have been through hell and came out stronger. Your pain can become your platform. It can become the thing that connects you to others on a deeper level, because they know you've walked the road they're on. But you can't inspire anyone if you stay stuck in the wound. You have to heal it and use it. The transformation happens when you stop seeing pain as the enemy and start seeing it as an ally. It's not there to keep you down. It's there to strip away what's not serving you so you can step into who you're meant to be. It's there to force you to grow, to evolve, to step up in ways you wouldn't have if everything had been comfortable. Every challenge you face is a test of your commitment to yourself. Will you let it break you, or will you let it break open the parts of you that have been dormant? Will you use it as an excuse to shrink, Or will you use it as a reason to rise? The reality is, pain changes you no matter what. The only question is, how will it change you? If you let it, it will make you bitter, fearful, and closed off. But if you choose differently, it will make you wiser, stronger, and more unstoppable than you ever imagined. That's the real power of pain. It's a doorway. On one side is the life you've been living, with all the limitations, fears, and doubts you've been carrying. On the other side is the life you're capable of living, where you stand in your full strength. And the only way to get to that other side is to walk through it, to lean into it, and to decide that whatever tried to break you will instead build you into something unshakable. Most people spend so much of their lives trying to control the world around them. They think if they can just get other people to change, if they can just make situations go their way, everything will finally feel right. But the reality is, you can't control other people. You can't control what they think, how they act, or the choices they make. The only thing you can truly control is you. Your mindset, your emotions, your energy, and your actions. And when you realize that, it's one of the most liberating shifts you'll ever make. Because the moment you stop wasting energy on trying to fix or change people who don't want to change, you free up that energy to pour into yourself. Think about it. How many hours, days, even years have you spent frustrated because someone didn't behave the way you thought they should? How often have you replayed conversations in your head, wishing they would see things your way? That cycle keeps you trapped in a place of frustration, resentment, and powerlessness. The more you focus on them, the less you focus on the only person you can actually transform, you. And here's the truth. When you change yourself, everything around you changes. Not because the world suddenly becomes perfect, but because your perspective, your strength, and your ability to navigate challenges expands the moment you take full ownership of your life. You start showing up differently. You stop blaming, you stop pointing fingers, and you start asking better questions. What can I do right now to shift this? How can I grow from this? What's my next step? Those questions take you out of reaction mode and put you into creation mode. And that's the key. Life is not about reacting to what happens. It's about creating the life you want in spite of what happens. The more you master yourself, the less you get knocked off course by other people's moods, opinions, or behavior when you focus on yourself. It's not selfish. It's essential. You're not shutting the world out. You're strengthening the foundation you stand on. Because if your mind is strong, if your emotions are steady, if your vision is clear, then no matter what chaos is happening around you, you remain grounded. You're not tossed around by every little storm because you've built an anchor inside yourself. That's the kind of power no one can take from you. And it only comes from doing the work on yourself, not from trying to force the world to bend to your will. Here's the paradox. When you stop trying to change people and focus instead on your own growth, sometimes those people start to change on their own. They see your discipline, your confidence, your peace, and they feel inspired to raise their own standards, not because you told them to, but because you became an example. And even if they don't change, it doesn't matter, because you've built yourself into someone who can thrive no matter who's in your life or what they choose to do. This is where you stop taking things personally. When you understand that other people's actions come from their own beliefs, fears, and limitations, you stop making it about you. You stop letting their negativity dictate your mood. You stop letting their choices determine your worth. That's when you start protecting your energy like it's sacred, because it is. And the more you protect it, the more you have to give to the things and people that actually matter. You can't pour from an empty cup. And if you're constantly draining yourself trying to fix people, you'll never have the energy to create the life you want. The shift is simple but profound. Stop asking, how can I get them to change? And start asking, how can I be the best version of myself regardless of what they do? That's the question that changes everything. That's the question that takes you out of a powerless position and puts you in the driver's seat of your own life. Because once you understand that your happiness, your growth, and your success are in your hands, not anyone else's, you stop waiting and you start building. You stop hoping they'll finally get it, and you start making sure you get it. You start living on your terms, guided by your values, your vision, and your commitment to yourself. Pain can either break you or build you. It all depends on what you decide to do with it. Every single person experiences moments that hurt so deeply they shake the core of who they are. Maybe it's betrayal, maybe it's loss, maybe it's failure. Those moments have a way of making you question everything, but here's the truth. Pain is a signal. It's a wake-up call. It's telling you something needs to change. Most people try to avoid it, numb it, or pretend it's not there. But pain has the power to transform you if you face it head on. The key is to stop seeing pain as the enemy and start seeing it as the fuel that can push you to new heights. When you're in pain, you're in a unique position. Because pain strips away the superficial. It forces you to see what's real. It removes the illusions, the comfort zones, and the lies you've been telling yourself. In that raw place, you have a choice. Stay broken or use the hurt as a catalyst to build something stronger. That's where the power lies. The very thing you think is going to destroy you can be the same thing that turns you into a version of yourself you didn't even know was possible. But that only happens if you stop running from it and instead lean in and ask, what is this pain here to teach me? Pain has a way of sharpening your focus. When everything feels like it's falling apart, you stop wasting time on things that don't matter. You get crystal clear on what's important, who's important, and what you're willing to fight for. It pushes you to cut out the distractions, to drop the excuses, to stop living in someday, and start making changes now. And the more you channel that intensity into action, the more unstoppable you become. Pain gives you a level of drive you can't manufacture when life is comfortable. It pushes you to dig deeper, to push harder, to tap into strength you didn't know you had. The challenge is most people get stuck in the pain. They replay the story over and over, reliving the hurt until it defines them. They let it become their identity. But you are not your pain. You are the person who decides what that pain means. You can let it crush you, or you can decide that it will be the reason you rise. And when you make that decision, everything shifts. You stop being a victim of your circumstances and start being the architect of your comeback. You stop waiting for life to be fair and you start creating something better, something stronger. Something that wouldn't exist without the hurt you went through. Pain can also be the greatest motivator for personal growth because it forces you to confront the parts of yourself you've been avoiding. Maybe you realize you've been too passive, too dependent on others, or too willing to settle for less than you deserve. Pain doesn't just reveal the truth about other people. It reveals the truth about you. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. That's where real transformation begins, because now you can take that awareness and turn it into action. You can start setting boundaries, raising your standards, and building the habits that create real, lasting change. There's something powerful about looking back on a moment that almost broke you and realizing you came out stronger. It changes how you see yourself. You stop doubting your ability to handle hard things because you've proven you can. And the next time life throws something at you, you don't crumble the same way. You respond differently because you've been through the fire before and you know you can walk through it again. That's the gift pain gives you when you use it instead of letting it use you. It's like resistance training for your spirit. The more you lift, the stronger you get. And here's the thing. When you transform your pain into power, you don't just change your own life. You inspire others to do the same. Your story becomes proof that no matter how bad it gets, it's possible to come out better, not bitter. You show people that pain doesn't have to be the end of the story. It can be the beginning of a new chapter. And you didn't get there by pretending it didn't hurt. You got there by feeling it, facing it, and then choosing to rise anyway. When you focus on yourself, something incredible happens. You take back control of your life. Too many people are stuck living in reaction mode, constantly adjusting themselves to fit the expectations, opinions, and needs of everyone else. They spend their energy trying to fix, change, or please others, thinking that if they can just get everyone else to act right, they'll finally feel at peace. But that's not how it works. The truth is, you can't control other people. You can't make them grow, see their blind spots, or treat you the way you deserve. The only person you can truly control, the only person you can truly transform, is you. When you shift your attention inward, everything changes. You stop wasting time waiting for someone else to apologize before you feel free. You stop depending on someone else's approval to feel worthy. You stop giving your power away by tying your happiness to how someone else behaves. Instead, you build your own foundation from the inside out. You start asking yourself, what can I change about me? What can I do differently to create the life I want? That's where real progress begins, not when the world changes for you, but when you change how you show up in the world. Focusing on yourself doesn't mean you stop caring about others. It means you start leading by example instead of trying to drag people to where you want them to be. It's about raising your own standards, living with integrity, and letting your actions speak louder than your lectures. People are far more likely to be inspired by your transformation than by your advice. When they see you making moves, breaking patterns, and elevating your life, it sparks something in them. But whether they change or not, you still win. Because your life improves regardless of what anyone else does the moment you put your energy into becoming the best version of yourself. You also gain clarity on what you will and won't tolerate. You begin to set boundaries, not as walls to keep people out, but as gates to protect your peace. You realize that you don't have to stay in environments, relationships, or situations that drain you. You can choose to step back, not out of spite, but out of self-respect. That's the difference between reacting to others and leading yourself. And the more you practice it, the more natural it becomes. You stop feeling guilty for prioritizing your growth, because you understand that when you're at your best, you can show up better for everyone else. There's also an incredible freedom that comes when you stop trying to manage the unmanageable. You can't control what someone says about you, but you can control whether you let it define you. You can't control whether someone supports your dreams, but you can control whether you pursue them anyway. You can't control how life challenges you, but you can control how you respond. When you live with that mindset, you stop being a victim of circumstances and start being the author of your own story. You become proactive instead of reactive, intentional instead of aimless, and strong instead of dependent. This inward focus also builds self-awareness, the kind of awareness that reveals your patterns, your triggers, and your limiting beliefs. You start to see the ways you've been holding yourself back. Maybe you've been settling for less because you were afraid to ask for more. Maybe you've been avoiding risks because you were scared to fail. When you look inward, you uncover those truths, and once you see them, you can't go back. That's when you can begin to rewrite the script. You start replacing fear with courage, doubt with belief, and hesitation with action. And with every step you take, you prove to yourself that you're capable of more than you thought. As you grow, your environment often shifts too. People who truly value you will support your evolution, while others may resist it because it disrupts the dynamic they were comfortable with. That's okay. Growth will always test your connections, but when you focus on yourself, you're not making choices based on who might leave. You're making choices based on who you're becoming. You understand that the right people will rise with you, and the wrong ones will fall away. And either way, you're still moving forward, because your path is no longer dictated by someone else's comfort zone.